Hi everybody, I am back with Daniel Priestley, founder of ScoreApp.com, and the person I've been talking about the most for the past, I'd say 6 weeks or so since we set our scorecard up effectively. Since then, we have done a launch using our scorecard. We've had our 5M scorecard out into the world for about 6 weeks. We've collected over about 250, 300 leads. We had 300 people sign up to a webinar because of it. The webinar happened on, don't even know what day it is today. It happened on Friday at 10 o'clock, and we've since then sold 3 spaces on business. So that's £15,000 in revenue, and the scorecard cost us about, I don't know, Aussie cost us about £70 a month or something. So there you go. I've had my return on investment, and that's why I'm so excited to share details of ScoreApp with all of my audience, all of the people in my world. Every time I speak to somebody, it's like, you definitely need a scorecard. I haven't found anybody yet that it doesn't work for, or I don't think it wouldn't work for. So yeah, Daniel Priestley, introduce yourself.
Helen, you are such a massive fan and promoter, and I love it. I love it. My goal is to turn the whole world into total fans like yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
But the good thing is you've found something that works for you. Do you know, if I cast my mind back 5-6 years ago, I launched my first scorecard, which was the Key Person of Influence scorecard. And it was a total game changer, like an absolute game changer, because up until that point, we used to run these huge theatre auditorium events, and it cost £30,000 to rent the venue, and not to mention filling it and all of those sorts of things. So putting on the event was 30 grand. We were doing one a month somewhere in the world. And we pretty much replaced the exact same results with the scorecard. And there's a huge difference between broadcasting and then actually inviting people to tell you about themselves, especially when you call them. So think about it like this. If I cold called you, Helen, and said, "Hi, Helen, it's Daniel Priestley here from Dent Global. We are a business that accelerates entrepreneurs. We develop entrepreneurs who stand out, scale up, and make a positive impact in the world. We're focused at personal brand." See, I'm talking about myself, and you're switching off thinking, how do I get rid of this guy on the phone? But if I call you up and I say, "Helen, you filled in a scorecard and you got an overall score of 72%. Your lowest was pitching, which was 24%, and your highest was product, which was 80%. And what that tells us is you've got amazing products that need to be pitched a little bit better. Would it be okay if I talk to you about how to improve?" Now, that is a very different cold call, because I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about you. And that's everyone's favorite topic. Everyone loves talking about themselves and the stuff that matters to them. So this is like the shortcut to being able to go straight to that conversation. So total game changer for me as well. I developed ScoreApp because I felt exactly the way you feel about scorecards. They're just really great for marketing.
They're just amazing for marketing. ScoreApp specifically, because there are other things on the market, and there are other people who do, create this kind of thing. But it just blew me away that anybody can do it. Anybody can use it. The templates, I mean, you can tell you spent a lot of money developing it, but it's so slick. It's like a joy to be in there, in the dashboard, and the data. I mean, it's all the intelligence you'd ever need for your audience. So I'm going to help people build audiences. And then what your product does is gives people intelligence on that data. And that, I think, is a game changer for businesses.
Here's an interesting thought. A person's value changes depending on who's looking, right? So with most businesses, not all businesses, but most businesses, like I'll give you, actually, even take something like an Apple iPhone. There are people on the planet who would happily not think twice about paying £5,000 for an iPhone. And there are most people who pay £1,000 for an iPhone. So there are some people who would happily pay 5 times as much. I mean, me personally, if you said you either have an iPhone or a Samsung, but the iPhone's double, at the moment, I'd probably just pay double for the iPhone. I'm not price sensitive. Take someone like, there's a woman called Esther Perel. Esther Perel is a couples therapist, right? She does marriage advice and she does couples therapy. She gives TED Talks. She's written books. She sells her couples therapy for $250,000. If you want to have her as your couples therapist, it's $250,000. And the people she works with are like the 1% of the 1%, right? The top people. So if she's in front of the wrong people, if she's in front of normal people, they're not going to spend 25 grand, let alone $250,000. Most people probably wouldn't even spend 2,500 on a couples therapist each year. So there's this tiny percentage of people on the planet, who are happy to spend $250,000 a year on couples therapy. And there's the vast majority of billions of people who won't even spend 2,500 per year. So every business, you have to be able to identify who are those people who see you as 5 times more valuable or 10 times more valuable than everyone else. Who are the people who really, they're not price sensitive when it comes to what you do. Now, if you just broadcast out there, you don't know who those people are. It could be anyone, and you're just hoping that you hit a bullseye, and you're hoping that they get in touch with you. Whereas with a scorecard, just by the way people answer the questions, you can narrow it right down. You talked about adding that intelligence. You can add the intelligence. It's called enriching the data. When you enrich the data, you can then see, that's the person I should be talking to. That's the perfect person who I can get a massive return on investment for them.
It's so true, because when we did the business clarity one, it's more of a general business one, we asked the question, how much money have you invested in your personal, in your business development in the last 12 months? And how much have you got to invest in the next 12 months? It seems like a really black and white question, but people answer it. And as far as I can see, they're answering it honestly, to the point where we've had this data, 200 odd people in the latest one. We asked the question as well. And the people who've got 10K and above, we're going to bring them up straight away, because we're going to be able to give them something at every price point in my business at the moment. Yeah. Now, the business mastermind is 5K. The LinkedIn mastermind is 2.5. But there's a whole host of people, like 100 plus people there, who have said, I've got £1,000. And I don't have £1,000 product right now. So between myself and a couple of our business partners, they said, why don't we give them a 997 product that is actually a reduction of what we would normally offer, but it's still great value, and we know that they can afford it. Let's just offer it out just to those people. I was like, it's so clever.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have even, if we do that effectively and we offer that to 10 people and we make £10,000 this weekend, I'm going to send you something very nice in the post, Daniel Priestley.
Do you know what's funny? I'll just throw it out there. Someone just sent me randomly a £100 Hugo Boss voucher, because they said, what you've done to my business has been transformational. And it was just a random, here's a £100 voucher for Hugo Boss. So it's pretty rare that you create something that people are happy to pay for and then give you vouchers for.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But here's something interesting. In the 20th century, from 1900s, was this marketing era, and it was all about creative. You had to come up with really good creative, and they paid these ad agency guys to come up with campaigns, and they, came up with jingles, and they came up with very good content and copy. But there's really a swing that's happening at the moment, which is that the marketing is about data collection. It's about testing the market, finding those price points. See, here's the funny thing. When you run those questionnaires like you've done, you've found that there's 100 people who've only got 1,000 to spend. That's their budget. Right? Now, if you've got a great value £2,500 product, it might be great value. They don't have a budget for that. So you're leaving 100 grand on the table, and they've told you that. And then secondly, here's a crazy thing. What you might discover is that out of every 1,000 people who fill in your scorecard, there's one person who's got 100 grand to spend. And they're saying, we want to spend 10 grand a month on getting this right, which is interesting. Knowing who that one person is actually worth just as much as knowing who those 100 people are. So at both ends of the spectrum, the data is telling you what products to develop and how to interact.
It's just so good. This is why I love it so much. It's that good. And I am pretty cynical. I've been in business a long time. I've been in the online space, in online years, feels like forever. It's only been, say, 5 years, but you don't often see things this good. There's normally a catch, but I'm looking hard, guys. I'm looking hard, and we're testing it, and and we're doing everything. We're getting as involved as we can, because you've got a community around it, haven't you? You've got the group in there. I was on a call with you recently. I've recently been featured on your page of
Yeah, you're on our page.
Yeah, and so I'm all in. That's me. So if I'm into something, I am all in. So I'm just like, I want to know, because I want to be, because I feel like an early adopter. I feel like what's next? What are you going to develop on it next? Like, how good is this going to get?
Well, I would say this. It's really important that you know that 99 out of 100 ideas for the platform we say no to. So building a great platform is not about adding stuff. It's about saying no to stuff and being really, really disciplined. We could add a lot of features to this. We could add so much to it. But here's the thing. What people need, well, in some parts of your business, you need a Swiss Army knife, what I'd call a Swiss Army knife. And a Swiss Army knife is something that can do a bit of everything, but it's not a specialist tool at anything. If you need to cut a branch off a tree, it's not as good as a saw, but it has a little tiny saw in it, and you could probably get away with cutting the branch off the tree if you had to. Or if you need to open a bottle of wine, it's got a weird kind of like corkscrew in there, and you got to really wrestle with the bottle of wine. It's not as good as a bottle opener, but you can get away with it if you have to. So it kind of does. A general tool always does things badly. It can do a lot, but it does things badly. I've always, when I first launched my first company, I had a few people like that. I had people who could do 25 things, but all of them badly. But anyway, what we've tried to do with ScoreApp is to turn it into a scalpel, not a Swiss Army knife. It's designed to do one thing really, really, really well. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to generate data-rich leads. We want professional service providers to have tangibility to the outcomes they can deliver. We want, if you deliver a service, and if what you do is create a transformation for your clients by delivering some form of a service that you might be an IT company, or you might be a legal company, or you might be a coach, a fitness trainer, you might be a relationship person. We've got a client who helps people who are suffering with MS to get their life back the way they want it. So there's these things that you do that create transformation. But for the person who's trying to buy that, it's not very tangible. It's kind of like, what does it mean to create transformation? What is going to actually improve about my life? And for them, they're looking for that information that allows them to connect the dots and say, aha, this is going to be very valuable. Now, what we've done is we've created a very specific tool that gets from point A to point B and tells people exactly, these are the things that we can help you with. And here's you scored a 4 out of 10 and we can get you to a 9 out of 10. There's going to be this much improvement. So it makes it very clear and very tangible, the value that you do. So when you think of, if you were to come and sit in on a lot of the meetings that we had one yesterday, we filled the whiteboard full of ideas as to what we could develop. And we actually applied a really, really strict criteria. And out of 50 ideas, we picked 2 or 3 slight tweaks, slight adjustments to the platform that are designed to optimize for a very specific outcome. It's lead generation. We want you to make warm leads and make sales. It's not a survey tool. It doesn't replace Typeform. It's not a Google Sheet. It's not a Google Form. It's not for selling e-commerce, pretty visual products on Amazon. It's a professional services lead generation product primarily. That's the main use case. And if you look at all the people who are making hundreds of thousands, it's financial planners, it's coaches, trainers, consultants. It's people who do process improvement. And they're trying to make that tangible. So in answer to your question, what comes next is things that optimize for that result and scrutinized by 3 multi-award winning marketers who, like one of the guys on our senior team, he was in charge of scaling Netflix across Europe. Data-driven, very senior marketing professional, award-winning. So we're running it through filters, and the goal is to say no to as much as possible and to be a real purist. as to what ingredients go into our soup.
I like that. Selling one thing to one person at one time, Daniel. Talking my language. I like it. Now, did you know I won FSB High Growth of the Year 2020? So if you ever want me to come in, come to the whiteboard, I'm all yours.
I like it. Yeah.
So for me, it's like, because I teach LinkedIn lead gen, that's my core business really, and all the other stuff sort of come from that. So I've been posting about ScoreApp, and I've been posting my scorecards on LinkedIn pretty much every day because I'm just obsessed with it, right? And I'm cool with that. Like, I can post on LinkedIn all day long, and I don't care about the LinkedIn algorithm, and I don't care about reviews. I care about getting out to as many people as possible. But what happens is real cause and effect. Every time I post about it, we get a lead, at least one, if not more. So I did the corporate one. So, we talked about doing corporate scorecards, and it's a different flavor. We use different language. We talked about high performing teams. Put that one out today, Daniel. And
can I comment on corporate scorecards?
Yeah.
For anyone who sells to corporate, let me just share some key ideas for selling to corporate. So the normal place that most people put a scorecard is between their content and a sales meeting, first sales meeting. So they post content, someone takes the scorecard, and then they have a sales meeting off the back of the scorecard. That's most people. When selling to corporate, one of the best use cases is you have meeting number one with the corporate, which might have come through your network or referral or something like that. You sell the corporate on running out a scorecard to 50 of their employees or 30 of the people on their team. And essentially what you do is you get all of the members of the team, they have to complete the scorecard by a certain date. The great thing with corporate is if they're told to do something, they just go and do it. So you just say, you've got to do this. So they send out an email and they fill in the scorecard. And then on meeting number two, you show them the results. This is the aggregate results. 22% of your people said this, 36% said this. We can drill into certain people, drill into the data and say, these are the ones who are the people who need the most attention. So you can actually say to the corporate, these 6 people need one-to-one coaching and here's why. These 18 people need a group program and here's why. These people are mostly fine and they might need like a bit of phone support, tech support, something, and here's why. These people are actually really not fine and we need to do something intense over the next 3 months with them. When you present the data to the corporates, it's so easy for them to sign off and just say, hey, look, if it's 50 grand, 60 grand, 70 grand, fine, because you've quantified it. You've showed us why we're doing the programs with different people, and it makes total sense. Remember, corporates have to buy to avoid risk, and they have to buy in logical sequences. So the scorecard gives them the data that allows them to de-risk and to buy logically. So placing a scorecard between meeting 1 and meeting 2 is really powerful. Now, real life case study is one of our clients does work with the NHS, and they got 70 people to fill in a mental health at work scorecard, talking about how they handle stress, whether they feel supported, all of those sorts of things. And it led to I think it was either a 3 or a 6 month engagement. So when they saw the data and they saw, oh, wow, this is how 70 people responded, and we've got 700 people over here. We need to roll this thing out. And they've basically made the scorecard part of the whole process. They take the scorecard at the beginning of the transformation, at the end of the transformation, so they can actually showcase, Billy Bloggs was in point A and got to point B. Sarah Smith got from point A to point B. So it makes it really, really clear and really powerful and credible for them.
And so easy to then resell it to other people when you've got that data.
Yes, and with all big corporates, if you can land it with one department, you'll be in the next 2 departments, 3 departments. You can build an entire multi-million-pound business bouncing around one corporate.
Yeah, for sure. Because they love that evidence, right? They love that evidence that gives them the confidence to sign off and report in.
It de-risks it, because they go to their boss and the boss says, why did you spend 70 grand on this? And they go, well, here's the data. Mm-hmm. And, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. Sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so good. So literally Paul messaged me and was like, you put the scorecard out today on LinkedIn, and do you know this guy? Because he's filled it in and he's got, $5,000 to spend, and he's got 16 people in his team. And I'm like, I do not know that guy. That is brilliant. And Paul's like, I'm going to bring him now. Just giving you all that information is just so powerful. What just made me think then, though, talking about the tangible. So a lot of my audience are service-based businesses. We have a lot of like holistic therapist type people, healers, people, coaches, people who do mindset stuff. And I would say it's quite hard to sell happiness and clarity and contentment. And, these are kind of like not tangible things that people will buy off the shelf. So this is a really good way. If you say you help improve people's happiness or improve people's like feelings of safety or feelings of inner peace, then, these are hard things to sell if you can't quantify use this to do that.
Every single sale, involves 3 key ingredients before people buy. It has to hit the emotional button where it feels right. It has to hit the logical button where it makes sense. And it has to hit the urgency button, which is a tiny little spice. The other 2 are ingredients. Emotion and logic are ingredients. Urgency is a spice. People have to feel that they should do it now. Now, if you ramp up urgency too high, people feel pressured. So you don't want to use that as an ingredient. You want to use it as a spice. So you want to give people a reason why it's appropriate to start now, but you don't want to layer it on too thick. It needs to be a reasonable reason why now is a good time to act. But you need to have all 3. Now, if someone's not making sales, their customer might feel like it's something they want to do, but it doesn't really logically make sense, and there's no urgency, not gonna buy. And any of those 3 things can derail the sale: logic, emotion, urgency. So with a lot of these businesses, especially if they tick the emotional button, so peace, happiness, contentment, confidence, clarity, these are all things that appeal to the right brain. The right brain is just going ding, 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 ding. Yeah, I want peace and clarity and confidence and creativity and happiness and, peace, love, doves and unicorns, right? So the right brain is just totally geeking out on that. But the left brain is going, sorry, no, right? So here's the thing with the scorecard. The scorecard adds the other element. So when the scorecard comes along, it asks questions like, do you go to bed at night and have a hard time falling asleep because you're mentally thinking about the events of the day, right? That might be a question. Do you sometimes feel anxious about the future, not knowing how things are going to work out? Right. So then you might go through and ask some of these questions. Would your friends say that would your close friends say that you're mostly happy and in a good mood? Right. So you ask all these questions and out comes a result and it says you scored 29%. And you go, really? Did I? And you think back across the questions, you go, yeah, you're right. I did score 29%, I guess. And then it comes out and you say, would you be interested in taking tangible, proven steps that could get you above a 70 or an 80%. We've got plenty of examples where people move from 30% to 70%. And how wouldn't life be better? And here's how it would be better. And people, if they've answered those questions, they logically go, okay, so I guess the benefits would be I won't sit up at night thinking about the events. I'll have clarity about the future and I won't feel anxious about it. My friends will see me as being in more of a good mood. So you start to go tick, 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 tick. I want all of those things. So it's really good for ticking the left brain side of things.
And we talked about data into stories and stories into data as well. And that's along those lines, isn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly. Because the other one is if I want to go from data to emotion, we can ask the question, we can say, you currently said that you scored 25%. And where do you want to be? I want to be 75%. Can I tell you a story about someone who I helped go from 25% to 75%? Let me tell you a case study about this person who was really in the similar position to you. And now let me show you where they're at right now. So that adds the emotion, it adds the story. And you can ask people, what do you think it would feel like if you were consistently at a 77 out of 10 or above? And then they go, oh, I feel pretty good, right? So then you light up the other side. So here's how the urgency happens. The urgency happens because when you've got a consistent way of generating leads and you've got leads coming in, it creates urgency because you actually get busy and you become oversubscribed. And when you're oversubscribed, you end up with something magical called with or without you energy. with or without you energy is my diary is going to fill up with or without you. And it's something you can't fake. So for most people listening, they can relate to a time in their life where they genuinely were really busy, and all sorts of stuff shows up, and you have take it or leave it energy, or you have with or without you energy, and suddenly people are magnetized. They're like, hey, when can we meet up? When can I, can we meet up at night? Can we meet up at day? Could I just meet up for a 5-minute, quick, can I drive you to the airport? Right. And it's kind of like people can see that you're busy, and you're busy. So for most businesses, roughly speaking, and I've polled businesses on this, roughly speaking, 30 warm leads per month, between 30 warm leads a week and 30 warm leads a month is enough for most people to become massively oversubscribed. So most people's business, if they had 30 warm leads a month coming in, they literally very rapidly become too busy to cope. They can say no to the wrong client. They can say yes to the right client. And they can also establish something amazing called a waiting list. And if you establish a waiting list, 2 months, 3 months in advance, it sets a very real tone where you say, look, I've got good news and bad news. Good news is I can massively help you. We can do great work. Bad news is I've got about a 6-week waiting list right now. Would you like to jump on the waiting list, and we'll get you scheduled in, but we'll start in 6 weeks? And people are like, well, I guess I don't have a choice. That sounds great. So that's how you do logic, emotion, and urgency using data.
It's nice. I like it. If you're not read it, by the way, oversubscribed. I think that was my first book that I read of yours, and I was just like, oh, so all makes sense. Some great examples in that book as well of companies that have done it absolutely brilliantly as well, which is always good. I think one of the things that will be the question on people's minds watching this is, all sounds great. I get it. It's a really great way of doing lead gen, lead qualification. I get it. It's all right for you two because you're already really visible. People already know who you are. Obviously, you more so than me, but you've already got an audience. You're already being active. Like, what ways could people get people to fill in the scorecard without having to have a massive audience? Like, what kind of organic ways do you think would work?
So the first thing I'd say is that we've seen, like you've seen, that platforms like LinkedIn are a great way to connect with people. But the question with LinkedIn is, how do you get them to engage? So you can often get 100 to 1,000 views on a post, but how do you get people to engage? So like, for example, if I was starting out completely from scratch, I might be posting on LinkedIn using your strategies. And what I might do is that people who like or comment on my LinkedIn, I might message them saying, thank you so much for liking my post. I really appreciate that. By the way, I've also just created an online scorecard for improving X, Y, and Z and removing this pain. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes and it's still in beta. I would absolutely love it if you could give me some feedback. Would you mind taking the scorecard and letting me know whether you find it a valuable tool? Now, mind you, it would not be in beta. It would have bonuses. It would have videos on the back end. It would have content. It would be all singing, all dancing, beautifully branded. I want them to come back and go, holy smokes, that was absolutely awesome. That is a really powerful tool. How do I roll this out? How do I work with you? Mm-hmm. So I'd be messaging people and saying, would you mind taking 2 or 3 minutes, fill in the scorecard, let me know what you think. So that approach, it's time consuming, but if you're getting started, that's something you could kick off with. The other thing you can do is, if you can have just 2 or 3 friends who've got some visibility, they might share. A good friend of mine has just created a really interesting tool called this, the happiness scorecard. I really think it's a great thing. You could even pay an influencer to do that. You might do a £500 influencer campaign, or you might do a 10% of sales joint venture. Yeah. There are some other ways. You can run ads. You can email your database. You can go back through. You can have an email signature. You can use it with any form of content. So those are some of the ways of getting started.
Some of the ways I've seen you use it really cleverly is in your books. So at the beginning of your book, before they even carry on reading, which I thought was really clever, instead of just keeping it till the end. What else have I seen, which I thought was really good? Definitely having as a call to action. So when I teach a lot of guest experting, so going out and getting into other people's Facebook groups who've already built an audience and showing your expertise.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good, strong call to action, which is no selling. Because a lot of times when you're in somebody else's group, it's not the done thing to be pitching, but it's a really good way to gather some data out of someone else's audience while you're giving value back. When you're on podcasts, you could do it. You could put it in your freebies. And now we've got the replay for the webinar that we did. You can only get the replay for the webinar if you come back through the scorecard. So we changed the call to action from join the webinar to get to the replay now.
Can I share with you how we did our first million in Canada?
Please do.
First million of sales, because we've grown into Canada. So one of the things we did is we were going to launch in Canada. We'd never set up in Canada before, literally starting from scratch, no benefit, no knowledge, no amazing connections, literally just a stranger walking into town with a suitcase. Here's what we did. We found some famous speakers, and we found that they were charging about $2,000 to do a special online presentation and like podcast and kind of all that promotional stuff. You can do that. So we booked a couple of speakers. One was 2 months out, one was 4 months out, but you're only talking $2,000, and you're talking about 10% or 30% down. I think from memory, 10 to 30% down, followed by the balance the day before the presentation. And these were pretty well-known people. So then what we did is we said, the only way to get a ticket is you fill in this scorecard and then it gives you a free ticket. Otherwise, the tickets are $79 each to see these speakers. These are best-selling authors and really, really cool people. So then what we did is we went out to like Chamber of Commerce and people who've got magazines and people who've got this. We said, hey, look, we've actually got a special event coming through with this type of speaker. We would love to joint venture with you and have you featured at the event as one of our major sponsors. To be a major sponsor, you just have to have 30 free tickets booked. And on top of that, if you hit 30 free tickets booked, we'll pay you 10 pounds. Anything above 30 free tickets, we'll pay you $10 per ticket for a free ticket that books. So you get $300 for the 30 tickets, and then you get 400, 500. So we did this joint venture with some of these people. So long story short, very quickly, and the way we did that, by the way, is we hosted a dinner party at a nice restaurant. We invited the most influential people in Toronto to come and attend the dinner party, and they all agreed that they would do the promotion with us. So what we ended up doing is we ended up with like 200 people on each webinar. They get the ticket through the scorecard. And then we basically, off the back of that, launched the business. So we had a guest speaker. We did a preamble about who we are and why we're launching. And then we did a special event. And then we did a post with that. We probably paid $2,000 for the talk and maybe $4,000 for the promotions. Yeah, about that. $2,000 for the talk. $2,000 to $3,000, so about $5,000, $10,000 for the launch costs, and we ended up doing $1 million off the back of it. Wow. So it was essentially, the beauty is that from minute one, as soon as people started booking tickets, we could see exactly who they were, where they work, what they're up to, what pains they've got, what problems they've got, what frustrations they've got. We finally tuned ourselves into those people very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the difference. It's not just about people. It's about knowing underneath the data what's going on with those people. So much easier to sell to. Talked a little bit about on the call that you did about doing joint ventures, and this is something that I'm really interested in at the moment. I've done the ad thing, and that's fine, and I can do the ad thing, but it's the joint ventures and the partner work I think is really, really interesting. But one of the things that you talked about was doing a joint venture where it's just on the scorecard. So you're not saying pitch my thing. It's just saying, can you just put this out to your audience just to get them to assess where they're at? I mean, it's such a simple ask. And then if you know what your allowable cost per lead is, which for us, for the LinkedIn stuff's around £7, £7.50, then you can do a deal based on the data. Like you can do a financial deal based on the data that's going to cost you less.
Yep. Rather than paying Mark Zuckerberg £7.50 per lead and having to pay him up front, instead, you pay someone who you like £7.50 per lead, and you pay them 30 days after the lead comes in, so that you've got time to make a sale first. It's a much better business model.
It's a much better business model, and it's it's so clean. That's what I liked about it. Because I think the reason why I've always been like this around joint ventures and partnerships, I've always looking for this really clean model where it's an equal win and it's not someone doing someone else a favor. And so
doesn't piss off their database.
Yeah, it doesn't piss their database off. There's no ambiguity in the deal. You know, it's not like it's just we will literally pay you for every lead that we get, and we know that every lead, because we know. But the thing is, you've got to have confidence either side, haven't you? You've got to know you're allowed cost per lead, and you've got to have confidence that your sales process is going to deliver. And I think, having done ads for years, I do know, even though it's through gritted teeth, you know, if I give him X, I can pretty much get Y. But that said, it's been very, very volatile over the last 12 months, much more than 18 months ago. So this is a lot steadier for me. My accounts
here's what's interesting. I've been doing marketing for my own entrepreneurial ventures for 20 years now, which is kind of crazy to say. I still, in my head, I still think of myself as a young entrepreneur. It's not. However, the thing I've noticed is that the pendulum swings from ads to joint ventures and joint ventures to ads. So what happens is that there's a period of time where ads are highly performing, and it's so easy to just throttle up the ads, pay for the ads, liquidate the cost of the ads. For whatever reason, they're running hot. And then because they're running hot and because they're performing, everyone piles in. And because everyone piles in, and there's too many people fighting for the eyeballs, it doesn't perform anymore. And as soon as it doesn't perform anymore, the trick is to identify who was spending money a lot on ads a year ago, because that person has a huge database, right? And if they were spending a lot of money, if they were spending money over the last 12 months on ads and now it's not performing, and I was spending money on ads and now it's not performing, we can then do a joint venture. I can mail my database about them. They can mail their database about me. So now we do joint ventures. So when the pendulum swings, you want to tee up 12 months worth of joint ventures. By the time 12 months goes by, everyone realizes that Facebook ads or Google ads are no longer performing, so they stop running their ads. And about 12 months later, lo and behold, it goes back to being cheap again.
Yes, that is very interesting. That's definitely a one benefit of being in the game for a long time, is you do start to see those. You can
trends. Predict it. You can almost to the week, you can feel it coming off the boil.
Yeah, really interesting, and must be really frustrating. I'm invested in a paid ads agency, so it's really interesting to see the fluctuations and think. Actually, when I got into it, Facebook organic was like a license to print money. It was like literally a Facebook page, and everyone saw everything, and it was just like you've just got to make hay, haven't you, when the sun is shining, I guess.
You do.
And not take it personally when the goalposts shift, because they do, and that's what we love about it, really, secretly, don't we? We love it, really.
Well, it's a love-hate thing. And you've got to have a few tools that work. So I can tell you, a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, this platform called Clubhouse was just running hot. And essentially, I got 60,000 followers in 3 months just by going on Clubhouse and giving talks. And every room I was in had 1,000 people listening.
Yeah.
And I had a great call to action. I said, next step, take my scorecard. I said, next step, drop me a direct message on Instagram, it was linked to Instagram. Drop me a direct message on Instagram, and I will send you a link to get a scorecard and free report, and generated thousands of leads off that.
Yeah.
And lots of business. So there was just a moment in time where that was running hot, and I had a tool that was available to me to make the most of it.
And that's exactly it. That's the point. It's almost like the actual audiences are going to move and change, and the platform's going to move and change. But having something like scorecard, because we all know that our email data, we should all know, if you're watching this, you should know that your email database is king, because that is what you build up and that's what you own. Whereas all this other stuff is very smoke and mirrors and can come and go. And it's about, getting what's hot at the moment and channeling everybody into your email audience, because that is where you can always rely on that. You can always rely on your email to cash out when you need to.
So just slight tweak. If you think of it as your email audience, so with the scorecard, if you think of it as a slight tweak, which is to think of it as your database, think about it as your list, you can enrich the data. So the vast majority of people only have name and email, maybe location. They call it Nepal, name and email and location, right? And sorry, name, email, phone, and location. So Nepal, they say capture the Nepal details. So most people's database is that name, name, email, phone, and location.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's the end of it. I know plenty of people who've got 50 to 100,000 people of email addresses. Here's the difference. Because I've run Scorecard since 2016, I've got 100,000 people where we know 60 things about them. So if I bring up anyone's folder, I can say on this particular date, they had this many employees and they had this much revenue and they grew this much and they did this much. And I can segment my database. I can literally do a search and say, give me all the people who export, like you actually sell something overseas. Boom, I pull, because that's one of the questions on our scorecard. Do you sell products overseas? Boom, boom, boom. I can say, do you have more than 2,000 followers on social media? Bring me all the people who have got more than 2,000 followers on social media. So that is enriched data. So keep in mind, the future, the last 10, 20 years was Nepal. The future is enriched data. You want to know 50 things about every single person on your database. If ever you get a chance to sell your company, some people will, some people won't. But one of the things that blows an acquirer out of the water is if you have that level of data about your customer base.
And it's also a snapshot in time. So you can know exactly where they were then. So you can contact them again and be like, this is where you were then. Where are you now? Have you moved forward from not
super
buying?
powerful, super powerful, right? There's nothing better. You know how some people say, oh, Helen, I'm just busy right now and I'll get around to it and I'll do this sort of stuff. And, I'm sure I'll come back to you, and you put it in your diary and we'll call you back in 6 months and we'll see how you go. Call someone back and say, hey, look, I just want to run through 6 months ago. Here's how you answered these questions. How would you answer them today? Would you mind if we go through and see if you've made improvements? Like, it's been 6 months and you've not made improvements in that space. Can we help you? Can we just get in there and do this for you? And can we work with you? And of course, people go, oh, yeah, you're right. Like, it has been 6 months and I haven't improved on that. So it's still an issue. Yeah, let's do it. So it's a perfect snapshot in time. Amazing for following up with people who say, no, not now.
Yeah, overcoming objections, and also just checking in with people. Like, if we run a LinkedIn challenge, like, once a quarter, and people say, I'm not going to join this time, but maybe next. It's like, it's so easy to be like, there's another challenge coming up, rescore yourself. Here's the call to the action to the next challenge. What have you done since, and all that kind of stuff. And it just gives people that data. And I'm now talking in data all the time. That's what I'm obsessed now. I'm like, that's it. I need to have a data business. Daniel told me. So like now when I do my LinkedIn training, I'm like, the only thing I care about is how your profile views have gone up, right? Because profile, your summary is a landing page. We're driving traffic every day with the 3 things. I just want you to focus on that percentage, because you're gamifying it against yourself, and you just need to keep improving that percentage. And it was a light bulb moment for me, never mind everyone else. It's like, oh yeah, so the more activity we do, the more we do what Helen says, that we can see that number shifting. So it doesn't matter whether you've got 2,000 views or 20 views, or it's your number, and
you just improve that number.
Yeah, just focus on improving that number.
And whatever gets measured gets improved. If you don't measure it, you won't improve it. The other thing too is, you mentioned that you'd won a really great award. Normally when you enter for awards, they want data. They want to see what you've actually done. So for example, we won Business Enabler of the Year. And in order to win that, you've got to submit data. Now, what was great is we actually had the data. We could say, here's 300 clients, their starting point and their end point. And here's the average improvement. So we had a data scientist come in. When I say we had a data scientist come in, it was like £1,500 to get a consultant to come and do it, right? So produce a report, crunch the data, and basically say, here's all the improvements that you guys have made. And then when we entered the awards, we smashed it, because no one else keeps this level of data.
No, it's honestly, just by having a score card and signing up to ScoreApp, buy my link, because you get an extended free trial. Just by doing that, you're going to create a data business for yourself. That's it. It's as simple as that. It's just click the link. sign up.
It's
You've got nothing to
literally
lose.
you jump in the DeLorean and you're in the future.
It's just the truth, though. Daniel's a real life thought leader. People say they're thought leaders. Daniel actually is. So it's really cool to be at the cutting edge of everything that you're saying, because it's just exciting for me. And like I say, there's not a lot I get excited about in business. Sometimes I feel like sometimes it can be a lot of the same things. So to find something new and exciting is new and exciting for us. So as a team, we're really big on it. Paul Green's been helping people actually design the scorecards and get past that initial, I don't know where to start. And I know that you give out loads of help and support, and the group's fantastic. And the girls that work for you are great. They're in contact and stuff like that. So it's been great fun. So what would you say to anyone thinking about signing up?
Well, I would say, 2007, I went around the world and gave talks. I was a guest speaker at all these conferences, and I did a 19-city global tour. And the key message that I said in 2007 was, whatever business you're in, you should also be a media business. I said, you got to think like a media business. If you're a hair salon, do before and afters, capture the video testimonials, put them on YouTube. That was pretty radical back in 2007 to think like a media business. People were like, wow, you're a thought leader. Believe it or not, it sounds so pedestrian today. But at the time, 2007, they were like, wow, think like a media business. And that was one of the key messages of my talks. Fast forward to today, I'm saying the next 10 years, you've got to think like a data business. You've got to mentally say, whatever business I'm in, I need to start thinking like a data business. That's the future. What we're desperately trying to do is make this accessible for small businesses. In the same way that YouTube made it accessible for small businesses to have a video platform, and other businesses came along with podcasts, and other businesses came along with publishing content, we want to make it as simple and easy to become a data business as it is to use social media.
And it truly is. It really is. It's that good. And the back end it's great. So I'm obviously a big fan. Someone just said in the comments, I love how excited you are about scorecards at the moment, Helen. I've been talking to my fiance about it all the time, and he's just like, I was like, he's got a CCTV business. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you could have a scorecard for that, so you can see how people's security's going on. And he's got a wood yard. I'm like, I'm sure you must be able to have a scorecard for, what kind of shed do you want to build? So he's just like,
the other day, my wife made us get up and digitally queue up for Muse tickets, to buy tickets to see Muse at a small venue in London, because she loves Muse. I feel like you are like a proper fan of ScoreApp in the same way.
I'm here to queue up.
I reckon if we did a ScoreApp concert, you'd be in the auditorium.
Yeah. I feel like if I could get a microphone and tell everyone about ScoreApp, I'm like literally messaging all my contacts that I normally do guest experts for LinkedIn. Like, oh, can Paul and I come in and do a guest expert about ScoreApp as long as they use my affiliate link? And because I just think it's that good. I want to get it in front of as many people as possible. Like, it's fab. I love it.
Brilliant. I do too.
Right. Thanks, Daniel. Thank you very much. And if anyone needs you, I'm sure they'll be able to find you somewhere on social media.
Yeah, find me on social media and send me a message with your scorecard when it goes live if you're watching.
Wow.
I absolutely love seeing how people are using ScoreApp. I love going in and taking people's scorecards and having a look. So once it goes live, send me the link, tweet me the link, or Instagram message me the link, or Facebook message me the link. I'd love to see your scorecard as well. So looking forward to it.
Get to it. Right. Thank you very much, Daniel. I'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.